The phone hit the floor screen first, and she didn't pick it up. She already knew what was on it. She had stopped reading the comments 20 minutes ago, but she could still hear the notifications. A steady ifilent rate has motomide against the hardwood. Like something alive and angry trying to get in. She sat on the edge of her bed with her knees pressed together and her hands flat on her thighs, staring at the wall, breathing the way people breathe when they are trying very hard not to cry and failing slowly. Outside her apartment, a door closed, footsteps in the hallway. Quiet again. She knew whose footsteps those were. She had made sure the whole internet knew, too. That was the problem. 2 weeks before the night her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Mara Collins was the kind of person the internet had never heard of. And she had decided, quietly and then desperately, that she could not live with that anymore. She was 26. She worked a remote job she didn't care about, and she had been running a YouTube channel called Just Mara for 22 months without a single video crossing 200 views. Not one. She had posted consistently. She had followed every piece of advice she could find. She had watched tutorials about thumbnail and titles, and the algorithm, had read articles about consistency and niche and audience retention. She had done what everyone said to do, and it wasn't working, and she was tired in the particular way that comes not from physical exhaustion, but from trying hard at something that kept refusing to respond. 419 subscribers, she said one evening, sitting at her desk with her analytics open on one screen and a successful creator's channel open on the other. She started 8 months ago. 8 months. She has 200,000. She wasn't talking to anyone. She lived alone. She closed the laptop, opened it again, closed it again. Then she picked up her phone and started scrolling, which was what she always did when the frustration got too loud to sit with. She scrolled through her recommended feed, past cooking videos and travel vlogs and comment compilations, and then she stopped. The video had 4.2 million views. It had been posted 4 days ago. The title was simple, almost too simple, and the thumbnail was a woman looking over her shoulder with genuine fear in her eyes. Mara clicked it without thinking. The woman in the video spoke directly to the camera, voice low and shaking. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I'm still scared. Comments were full of people saying they believed her, saying they were praying for her, saying they had shared the video, saying they had found the person she was talking about and were going to make sure he faced consequences. Mara watched the whole thing. Then she watched it again. Then she sat in the dark for a long time, and a thought came to her that she did not immediately push away. It was a small thought at first, almost innocent, just an observation, just a question. What if I had a story like that? She had a neighbor. His name, as far as she knew, was Daniel. He lived directly across the hall in apartment 3B. And in the 8 months since she had moved in, they had exchanged maybe 15 words total. He was quiet, kept odd hours. She had never seen him with friends, never heard him playing music or having conversations through the wall. Sometimes she passed him in the hallway, and he gave a short nod and kept walking. Once he had held the elevator door for her, and she had said, "Thank you," and he had said nothing, just looked straight ahead until the doors opened. She had no idea who he was. She had never asked. But he was there. He was quiet in a way that could be made to look like something else. And she had a camera. It's not like I'm going to say anything that isn't true. She told herself that night, pacing her small living room. I'm just going to share how I feel. People share how they feel all the time. But she knew, even as she said it, that she was already lying, at least to herself. Because what she was planning wasn't about sharing how she felt. It was about building a feeling in other people. A specific feeling. The kind that made them click and share and comment and come back. She started small. She filmed herself sitting on her couch, looking tired and a little shaken. And she said, in a soft and careful voice, I have been going back and forth about whether to post this. I really have. But I think I need to, because I don't know what else to do. She paused. Let the silence breathe. There's someone in my building, and I don't want to say too much yet. But things have been happening, and I've been documenting everything, and I needed to say something. She didn't post that one. Not yet. She saved it as a draft and went to sleep. And in the morning she woke up and watched it back, and felt the first real flicker of something she hadn't felt about her channel in a long time. Excitement. But over the next 4 days, she built the story the way you build a set actively, deliberately, with attention to what the audience would see, and sought clips. In her hallway. She filmed short clips in her hallway. She recorded audio of a door closing and let it play under footage of her sitting in her apartment, looking tense. She wrote a narration that never said anything technically false, but arranged the truth like furniture, moving things around until the room looked exactly the way she needed it to. She filmed Daniel once, or tried to. She had stepped into the hallway with her phone angled low, filming him as he walked to the elevator. He didn't notice. It was less than 8 seconds of footage. He was just walking. But in the edit, with the right music and the right cut, those 8 seconds looked like something else entirely. I know this might sound like nothing. She recorded herself saying, voice thin and careful. But when you live alone, and this keeps happening, and nobody believes you, it doesn't feel like nothing. It feels like a lot. The night before she posted, she sat at her desk with the video open in the editor, and her finger hovering over the export button. Something moved through her, not conscience exactly, but the shadow of it. A brief, uncomfortable awareness of what she was actually doing. Of who Daniel actually was. A quiet man who held elevator doors, who had never once done anything to her. I'll take it down if it gets out of hand, she told herself. She posted it at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, it had 11,000 views. She woke up to her phone vibrating on the nightstand and grabbed it before she was fully awake, blinking at the screen. The number didn't make sense at first. She refreshed. It went to 12,000. She sat up straight, both hands around the phone, pulse jumping. No, she said out loud. No way. She opened the comments. Sending you so much love right now. Please stay safe. Document everything. This is terrifying. You are so brave for speaking up. I shared this. Everyone needs to see it. She scrolled and could not stop smiling. And the smile felt good and terrible at the same time, but mostly good, and she chose to focus on that. She got up and made coffee and sat at her desk and watched the number climb. 14,000, 15, 17, and for the first time in 22 months of making videos that nobody watched, she felt like she existed online. Finally, she said softly to no one. Finally. By Thursday, The video had 63,000 views, and her subscriber count had jumped from 419 to just over 8,000. People were sharing it on other platforms. Someone had posted about it on a forum, and the thread had hundreds of replies. Some people expressing concern for her, some people trying to identify the man in the footage. She read those threads with a complicated mix of alarm and fascination. She told herself it was fine. She told herself people were just talking. She told herself Daniel would never find out, or if he did, he would never know it was about him specifically. She was wrong about all three of those things, but she didn't know that yet. What she knew was that her phone was full of notifications, and her channel was growing. And people were commenting on her other videos now too. Old videos she had posted a year ago that had never broken 30 views. They were saying things like, "Just found you through the new video, subscribing immediately, and you seem so genuine. I can't believe this is happening to you." She read every comment. She responded to dozens of them. "Thank you so much," she typed over and over. It means everything that she cared. She meant it. That was the part that made it complicated. She genuinely meant it. The gratitude, the warmth, the relief of being seen. She had wanted this for so long. She had worked for it, in her own way, for nearly 2 years, and now it was here, and it felt exactly as good as she had imagined it would. She just hadn't imagined what it would cost. On Friday, she posted a follow-up. Just 90 seconds, filmed on her phone, sitting close to the camera so her face filled the frame. She looked tired. She had made sure of that, had stayed up later than she needed to, had skipped the concealer under her eyes. "I didn't expect this response," she said softly. "I genuinely didn't. I've been reading your comments all day, and thank you, I feel less alone. I really do." Looks back up. "Things have been quiet today. I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying to just take it one day at a time." That video hit 40,000 views or 18 hours. Her subscriber count crossed 20,000. She sat in her apartment on Friday night, with her laptop open, and her phone beside her, and a glass of wine she had bought to celebrate, and she felt something she could only describe as power. Not the ugly kind. Not yet. Just the clean, bright feeling of finally being heard. Of mattering, at least in the small pixelated way that the internet made possible. She thought about the version of herself from 2 weeks ago, staring at 400 subscribers and a wall that wouldn't answer her, and she felt almost sorry for that person. "I figured it out," she said quietly, raising the glass in a small private toast. "I finally figured it." Across the hall, in apartment 3B, Daniel Ashworth was making dinner and had no idea his face had been filmed without his consent and watched by 60,000 strangers who believed he was a threat. He would find out, but not yet. The cracks, when they came quietly at first, the way most dangerous things do. It started with a comment she almost scrolled past. It appeared on the original video on Saturday afternoon, buried under thousands of supportive messages, posted by an account with a generic username and no profile picture. "Something feels off about this. The audio doesn't match the footage. I've watched this 4 times. Something is staged." She stared at it. Her stomach did something unpleasant. She kept scrolling, but there were others. Not many, maybe 6 or 7 out of thousands. But they were there, and they were asking specific questions she didn't have clean answers to. Why is the camera already rolling when this incident happens? The lighting in that hallway clip looks different from her other videos. Is this the same building? I don't want to be that person, but has anyone else noticed the time-stable issue? She put her phone down, picked it up, put it down again. People are always skeptical, she said, pacing her kitchen. That's just the internet. There are always people who don't believe anything. She said it with confidence, but her hands weren't steady when she poured herself a glass of water. She drank it standing at the sink and looked out the window at the parking lot below and breathed carefully. She could have stopped then. She had the option. She could have quietly taken the videos down, said she needed a break. Let the whole thing dissolve before it became something she couldn't control. The window was still open. She didn't take it. Instead, on Saturday evening, she posted a third video. I've seen some of the comments questioning my story, she said, looking directly into the camera with something she had practiced. A calm that was almost indignation, almost hurt, almost dignified. And I want to say, honestly, that it hurt. It hurts to finally speak up about something that's been affecting your life and have people tell you you're lying. She shook her head slowly. I'm not lying. I know what I've experienced, and I'm not going to stop talking about it just because some people are uncomfortable with the truth. That video got 90,000 views. The supportive comments outnumbered the skeptical ones by a ratio of about 40-1. People were angry on her behalf. Angry at the skeptics. Angry at Daniel, a man most of them had never met and knew nothing about except 8 seconds of footage of him walking to an elevator. She read those comments and felt the power again, warmer this time, more addictive. She had defended herself. She had leaned in, and it had worked. What she did not see, what she was not looking for, was a comment posted late Saturday night by someone whose username she would not forget for the rest of her life. I know this man. His name is Daniel Ashworth. He is my former co-worker, and everything in this video is a lie. The comment had 43 replies by the time Mara saw it Sunday morning. She had woken up the way she always did now, reaching for her phone before her eyes were fully open, checking the numbers before she checked anything else. Sunstock count, view count, comments. It had become a ritual, almost a compulsion. The first hit of the day before the day had properly started. She had grown used to the comments being good, warm, full of people telling her she was brave, and they believed her and she wasn't alone. So when she saw it, the floor seemed to shift slightly beneath her. I know this man. His name is Daniel Ashworth. He is my former co-worker. And everything in this video. She sat up. Read it again. Scrolled to the reply. How do you know it's him? The face isn't clear. She never said his name. How are you so sure? And then, from the original commenter, because I recognized the hallway. I've been to that building, and I know Daniel. He is one of the kindest, most private people I have ever met. He wouldn't hurt anyone. Please, someone has to look into this. More replies. More people tagging each other. Someone had screenshotted the comment and posted it on the same forum where her video had been shared. And the thread was already shifting, not fully, not dramatically, but visibly the way. Mara put the phone face down on the mattress and sat very still. It's one person, she said. One person who thinks they know something. She picked the phone back up. The comment now had 61 replies. She told herself it would pass. She told herself that one comment, even one that was gaining traction, couldn't undo the goodwill of 20,000 subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views across 3 videos. The math was still on her side. The numbers were still on her side. She just needed to stay calm and not do anything that made it worse. She deleted the comment. She would later understand that this was the moment. Everything became irreversible. Not the original video. Not the follow-ups. The deletion, that small, panicked act of someone trying to protect themselves, was what turned a suspicious comment into a cause, because the person who had posted it had taken a screenshot before it disappeared. And within an hour of the deletion, that screenshot was everywhere. She deleted it. Why would she delete it if she had nothing to hide? This is what they always do. First the story, then the erasure. Someone find Daniel Ashworth. This woman is lying about him to hundreds of thousands of people. She spent Sunday refreshing pages. She shouldn't have been refreshing, watching the conversation about her spread across corners of the internet she had never intended to reach. She told herself to stop looking. She kept looking. It was the way you can't stop pressing a bruise. The pain confirming something you already knew, but weren't ready to admit. By Sunday afternoon, someone had found Daniel's LinkedIn profile. They shared it in the forum thread with a side-by-side comparison of the 8 seconds of elevator footage. The resolution wasn't good enough to be certain, but it was good enough to be convincing. And convincing, on the internet, was often enough. Okay, that's him. 100% the same guy. Look at the jacket. And then the information started to fill in around him. Not from anything he had done, but from people who knew him and were suddenly kindly to say so. A former colleague posted a long reply in the thread describing Daniel as someone who had gone out of his way to help new employees settle in, who had quietly organized a fundraiser for a sick coworker, who had left his last job only because the company downsized and not for any troubling reason. Someone else replied that they had gone to university with him, and he had been the kind of person who returned things people left behind in lecture halls, who showed up when he said he would, who didn't make a lot of noise but was always quietly decent. The picture forming online was not the picture Mara had painted. And the audience, her audience, the one with primitive premise of being believed, was starting to see both images at once. She posted nothing on Sunday. For the first time in a week, she had nothing to say. She sat in her apartment with the curtains drawn, and her laptop open, and her phone on the cushion beside her, and she thought about Daniel across the hall. She thought about how quiet his apartment always was. She thought about the way he had held the elevator without making a thing of it. She thought about 8 seconds of footage. Him just walking, just existing, just going somewhere. And how she had taken those 8 seconds and built a story around them that was now attached to his name on the internet, where names and stories have a way of staying long after anyone wants them. I'll fix it, she said quietly. I'll figure out how to fix it. She didn't know yet that some things, once broken, don't go back together the same way. Monday arrived grey and cold, and with it came the video. She found it the way she found most things now. Through the notifications, she could no longer keep up with, through a link someone had posted in her comments, through the specific dread of clicking something she already knew she didn't want to see. The video had been posted by a creator she had never heard of, a man with a mid-sized channel focused on internet accountability and what he called the culture of manufactured victimhood. The title of his video was simple and devastating. She made it all up. He had done his homework. Let's start with the time specs, he said calmly. his voice carrying the measured tone of someone who had prepared carefully and was not angry so much as certain. He walked through her 3 videos methodically, pausing at specific moments, zooming in on details she had not imagined anyone would look at that closely. The audio that didn't match the footage. The hallway clip where the lighting changed in a way that suggested it had been filmed at a different time than she claimed. The narration that implied causation between things that had no actual connection. None of what she describes is documented. He said, "There are no incident reports. There are no texts. There is no evidence of anything except a woman who wanted attention and found a quiet man who couldn't defend himself because he didn't know he needed to." He was careful not to use Daniel's name. But by that point, the internet already had. His video hit 500,000 views in 11 hours. Mara watched the whole thing sitting on her bathroom floor, with her back against the tube, because the bathroom was the smallest room in her apartment, and small rooms felt safer when everything was collapsing. She watched it twice. The second time she paused it frequently, not because she was looking for errors in his argument, but because she kept recognizing herself. The version of herself she had constructed for the camera, and the distance between that person and who she actually was had never felt so vast or so visible. When it was over, she sat in the silence for a long time. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "Is this Mara Collins? I'm a journalist covering the story. I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond before we publish." She turned the phone over. Another buzz. Then another. Then a sustained vibration that meant someone was calling. And she watched the screen light up and go dark without answering. And then light up again. She had wanted people to notice her. She had gotten that. She had it in full now, every version of it, including the versions she had never let herself picture. When she was sitting alone, at midnight refreshing her analytics and wondering why no one could see her. It was something truer and much worse. She was still on the bathroom floor when she heard it, a knock at her front door. Quiet, measured, not aggressive, just present. She didn't move for a moment. Then she stood up slowly, walked to the door, and looked through the people. Dana was standing in the hallway. He was wearing a dark jacket. The same one, she realized with a lurching stomach, that people in the forum thread had used to identify him. He was looking down at his shoes, and then he looked up, directly at the people, as if he knew she was there. His face was calm. That was the thing she hadn't expected. How calm he looked, not furious, not threatening. She unlocked the door. He looked at her for a moment, without speaking. He was taller than she had registered from their brief encounters in the hallway. He had dark circles under his eyes, and she knew without asking that he hadn't slept well. And she knew without asking that she was the reason. "I'm not here to yell at you," he said. His voice was low and even. "I just want to understand something." She opened the door a little wider. It was the least she could do. It wasn't enough, but it was the least. "Okay," she said. He looked past her into the apartment for a moment, then back at her face. "Did I do something to you? At some point, did I do something that actually scared you? Because I've been sitting in my apartment for 2 days trying to figure that out. Trying to think of what I could have done." She said nothing. "People have been sending messages to my old workplace," he said. "They found my mother's Facebook page. She called me yesterday, crying. because strangers were leaving comments on her photos. He paused, breathed. She's 63 years old. She's never been on YouTube. She doesn't know what any of this is. She just knows that people are saying her son is dangerous. Mara felt something shift inside her. Not guilt exactly, or not only guilt, but something larger and more structural, like a wall coming down that had been holding something back for a long time. Her throat tightened. "Daniel," she started, "I just want to know if I did something." He said again, not demanding, almost gentle, in a way that made it harder to stand there, not easier. "Because if I did, I want to know. I would want to fix it. But if I didn't, how?" He stopped, looked at her steadily. "If I didn't, then I need you to understand what you've done. Not to me. I can handle things said about me. But my mother can't. She shouldn't have to." The hallway was very quiet. Somewhere below them, a door opened and closed. Someone laughed on another floor, brief and distant. The ordinary sounds of a building full of people living their lives, unaware that in this small square of hallway, something important and irreversible was happening. "You didn't do anything," Mara said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended, smaller than she was. "You didn't do anything to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I don't curse." She stopped, started again. "I don't have an explanation that makes this okay." He nodded slowly, like he had already known the answer and had only needed to hear it said out loud. "Okay," he said. He looked at her for another moment. Then he turned and walked back across the hall. And she heard his door open and close, quiet and final. And she stood in her own doorway for a long time afterward, not quite ready to go back inside, because inside was her phone and her laptop and 23,000 subscribers who had followed her because they believed a story she had built out of nothing, about a man who held elevator doors and had a mother on Facebook who was 63 years old and didn't know what any of this was. She had not seen a person. She had seen content, and that was the thing she would carry longest. Longer than the lost subscribers, longer than the public embarrassment, longer than the journalist article or the accountability video or any of the external consequences that came in the days that followed. That moment of recognition, that she had looked at a human being and calculated his usefulness, that she had done it without much hesitation, that the hesitation she did have had not been enough to stop her. The apology video took her 4 days to make, not because she didn't know what to say. She knew exactly what to say. She had known since the moment she closed her front door and stood in her apartment in the silence Daniel had left behind. The words were all there, lined up and waiting. What took 4 days was finding the courage to say them without making the apology about herself. That was the trap she kept falling into in the early drafts. The slow drift from "I was wrong" to "but here is why I was struggling, so I hope you can understand." And every time she watched one back and heard herself doing it, she deleted the footage and started again. Because she understood now, in a way she hadn't before, that some apologies dressed up as accountability are really just a second performance. A way of managing the audience's perception of you rather than actually reckoning with what you did. She had built her entire crisis on performance. She was not going to end it the same way. On the 4th day, she sat down in front of the camera with no ring light, no prepared notes, no carefully chosen background. Just her face in natural light, honest and tired. And she pressed record. "I lied," she said. She let that sit for a moment before she continued. I made videos about my neighbor that were not true. I filmed him without his knowledge or consent. I built a story designed to make people afraid of him. And then I watched that story spread. And I told myself it was fine. And I told myself I would stop it before it got too far. And I didn't stop it. I didn't stop it because it was working. And I wanted it to keep working. And I chose that. I chose my numbers, my subscribers, my moment of finally being seen over his safety, his reputation, and his family's peace of mind. She looked directly into the lens. His mother saw comments on her Facebook page. She's 63 years old. She called her son crying because strangers on the internet told her he was dangerous. He is not dangerous. He has never been dangerous. He is a quiet man who lives across the hall from me and has never done a single thing to deserve what I did to him. She paused. I'm not posting this because I think it fixes anything. I don't think it fixes anything. I'm posting it because he deserves to have the lie corrected publicly, in the same place where it was told. And because I need to say clearly, without excuse, that I was wrong. Not misguided. Not confused. Wrong. I knew what I was doing. I hesitated, and then I did it anyway. And the hesitation I felt was not conscience. It was fear of getting caught. There's a difference. I know that now. She reached forward and stopped the recording. The apology video went up that evening. It was the most viewed video she had ever posted. Not because people were supporting her, but because the story had grown large enough that everyone who had followed it wanted to see how it ended. Within 6 hours, it had more views than all her other videos combined. The comments were divided. Some people saying they respected her for owning it fully. Others saying sorry wasn't enough. Others still processing the whole arc of what had happened and what it said about how quickly the internet could be turned into a weapon by someone with a camera and a story. She read every comment. She did not respond to any of them. She had said what she needed to say. Adding more felt like performing again, and she was done performing. What she did instead was sit with the discomfort of what came next, which was not dramatic as it turned out. There was no single moment of reckoning, no climatic scene that resolved everything cleanly. Just the slow, unglamorous work of consequence. Her subscriber count dropped from 23,000 back to under 2,000 in the span of a week. Several of the comments on her older videos were now hostile. People who had found her through the controversy and stayed to be angry. The journalist published her article, Fair, Measured, and Thorough, and it included a brief quote from Daniel. The only one he gave to anyone throughout the entire ordeal. I don't think she's a bad person. I think she was desperate and she made a terrible choice and I happened to be convenient. That's not an excuse, but it might be the truth. She read that quote 4 times. She saved it in the Notes app on her phone, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Because there was something in it that felt important. Something about the specific danger of desperation, about what people are capable of when they want something badly enough and the opportunity is right there, just across the hall. She had been desperate. She had not known she was capable of what desperation could make her do. Now she knew, and that knowledge was uncomfortable in the permanent way that real self-knowledge usually is. She took a week away from all of it. No posting. No checking analytics. No scrolling through comments or forums or threads. She turned her phone to silent and left it on the kitchen counter. and spent the evenings doing things she had stopped doing when the channel became an obsession. Reading, cooking slowly, calling her sister, sitting on her small balcony, and watching the sky change colors as the sun went. It was strange, those evenings. Quiet in a way she had forgotten she used to enjoy. She had spent 2 years treating silence like a problem to be solved, like something that needed to be filled with content and activity and growth metrics. Now she sat in it and let it just be silence, and gradually, without drama, it started to feel less like emptiness and more like space. One evening, about 10 days after the apology video, she was coming back from the grocery store and found herself in the elevator with Daniel. She had seen him once in passing since the conversation at her door, and they had not spoken, just the usual nod, brief and functional, the language of hallway neighbors everywhere. But this time, the elevator was slow, and the silence was long, and eventually she spoke, because she felt she owed him at least that much. Not comfort, not resolution, just acknowledgement. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told him, looking at the elevator doors rather than his face. "About your mother." He was quiet for a moment. "Okay," he said. "I think that's the part that lives in me the most. The part I didn't expect to be the hardest." She paused. "I thought about content. I thought about a character. I never thought about a mother." The elevator stopped at the 3rd floor. The doors opened. Neither of them moved for a second. "That's the thing about people," Daniel said, stepping out into the hallway. "They always come with more than you planned for." He went to his door. She went to hers. And that was it. No dramatic reconciliation, no tearful moment, no tidy resolution of the kind that would have played well on camera. Just 2 people going home to their separate apartments in the quiet of an ordinary evening, carrying what they carried. She stood in her kitchen for a long time after, thinking about what he had said. They always come with more than you planned for. She thought about all the videos she had watched on her way up. The viral ones, the ones built on conflict and sympathy and outrage. She thought about how efficiently they had reduced people to roles. The victim, the villain, the witness. She thought about how she had watched those videos and absorbed their logic without questioning it. That people were material, that attention was currency, that a story was more important than the person inside it. She had learned that logic from the internet, and she had applied it. And it had cost her something she was still trying to name. Not just her channel, not just her reputation. Something quieter than that. Some version of herself she had believed herself to be before she found out what she was capable of under pressure. She had wanted to be seen. That was the truest thing about all of it. Underneath the strategy and the analytics and the calculated decisions, there was just a woman who had been making things and putting them into the world for 2 years and felt invisible, and who had aged for that to change so much that she had eventually stopped asking whether the way she changed it mattered. She understood that now with a clarity that came too late and was entirely hers to live with. She started a new video, eventually. Not right away. Weeks later, when the dust had settled enough that she could think about the camera without her stomach turning. It was different from anything she had made before. No trending angle. No manufactured emotion. Just her, talking honestly about what had happened and what she had learned from it, not as content, but as confession. The real kind, the kind that doesn't ask for anything back. "I wanted to be seen so badly that I stopped seeing," she said, looking into the lens. I stopped seeing the person across the hall. I stopped seeing what I was becoming. I stopped seeing the distance between who I thought I was and what I was actually doing. She was quiet for a moment. I don't know if I'll keep making videos. I don't know if I've earned that back yet. But I know that if I do, it won't be like this. It won't be built on someone else's name. It won't be built on a story I invented to make people feel something that serves me. She leaned forward slightly. There are real stories worth telling. Real things worth making. Real ways to be seen that don't require you to make someone else disappear. I just had to burn everything down to figure that out, and that's on me. That's entirely on me. The video got fewer views than anything she had posted during the controversy. The comments were small in number, but different in quality. Thoughtful, careful, people who had followed the whole arc and stayed not out of anger, but out of something more like investment in what came next. She read them all. She responded to several. She did not check the subscriber count that night. There is a particular kind of lesson that cannot be taught, only lived. The kind that lodges itself in you, not as information, but as scar tissue, present in everything you do, afterward, invisible to anyone who hasn't earned it same hard way. Mara had learnt about visibility, about desperation, about the specific moral failure of looking at a person and seeing only what they can do for you. She had learned it in public, which made it worse, and permanently, which made it matter. She had wanted the world to see her. In the end, the world had just not the self she had constructed for the camera, the self underneath it. The one capable of hesitating and proceeding anyway. The one capable of deleting a comment and telling herself it was fine. The one who had looked at a quiet man going about his quiet life and thought, I can use this. That was the self the world had seen. And she had to live with that, not dramatically, not in a single moment of reckoning, but in the daily ordinary, unglamorous way that all real consequences are lived. One morning after another, one choice after another in a building on the 3rd floor, where a man named Daniel Ashworth still lived across the hall and held elevator doors for people without making a thing of it. Some things cannot be undone. They can only be carried honestly. The greatest influence you will ever build is not the one made from manufactured stories. It is the one made from a life lived with integrity, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because the internet forgets, but you do not. And the person across the hall does not. And the 63-year-old mother who cried over her phone does not. What you build on truth may grow slowly. It may test your patience in ways that feel unbearable. But it will not collapse in the night and take someone else down with it. It will not cost you the ability to look at yourself clearly. It will not leave you sitting on a bathroom floor, listening to notifications that have become a different kind of silence. The silence of a version of yourself you cannot take back. Choose what you build carefully. Choose who you are willing to become to build it. Because the camera sees everything. But you will see yourself long after the camera is off. And that is the only audience that was ever truly worth performing for. If this story made you think, if it made you feel something real, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below. What moment hit you hardest and why? And if you believe in content that challenges you, that tells the truth without flinching, subscribe and stay with us. There is more to come. Real stories. Real lessons, real reasons to show up. This has been our story for today. We'll see you in the next one.